Hi there, Sandra here from the Schwowin's Nest. Thanks for joining me today. My video is part of my Makeover Monday series. I know it's Friday, but I decided to join Jaime over at Board or Bananas for her Flippin' Friday series. My first project is using this spindle from a headboard that was given to us by a friend. I spent the last weekend cutting up all of these spindles and headboards. Look at all this wonderful wood stuff coming your way soon. I've never made really large candlesticks before, so I thought I would give it a try. I'm using my favorite weld bond glue, and I also then cut two pieces of 2x4 into a square and two pieces of 2x6 into a square. And that's going to create the base for both of the candlesticks. I'm using hot glue and the weld bond together to make sure that they are really nice and secure. Here I'm using hot glue to fill in the crack in between the 2x4s. Yes, you can use spackle or wood filler, but that takes a while to dry, and I was on a little bit of a time crunch for this video. So I'm just using hot glue and my little silicone makeup applicator that I got at the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to smooth out the hot glue while it's still wet, and then I can paint right away. I'm going to attach the spindle to the 2x4s as well, and this is also going to be with hot glue and the weld bond glue. And this weld bond glue is a permanent hold, so it's really fantastic to work with, and it also only has about a 10-minute drying time. It does need about a couple of hours to fully cure, but after about 10 minutes, you're able to just go ahead and continue with your project because it holds really quickly. I'm doing the same thing with the hot glue gun just to fill in any gaps between the spindle and the 2x4. I wanted to put some kind of square up at the top to make sure everything blended together, but I didn't want to use a big chunky 2x4. I just thought that was a little too heavy for the top. So I have this piece of MDF board that I got for free at my local hardware store. It was scraps, so I just cut those into a square, and now I'm going to place that on top using again my combination of hot glue and weld bond. Now it's time to paint. Since the spindle itself was dark brown, I wanted to create the same look all the way around with this. So I'm just taking some of my cocoa bean Rust-Oleum chalk paint, and I'm going to give all the raw wood pieces one coat. That will really make a difference when I go to paint and distress this piece. So I did build two candlesticks. This is the shorter one that I'm starting to paint here. I did the process the exact same way. And now I'm going to give them a couple of coats of this latex house paint. This is just regular house paint that you would use for your walls, but I love this color. I have this left over. It is on my main living area walls and it's beautiful. It's sort of a cross between a gray and a beige, almost a taupe color, I think you could call it. And I think it is very similar to the Waverly chalk paint in mineral. So if that's correct, let me know in the comments. I'm not 100% sure because I don't have access to Waverly products here in Canada. Here's my two coats painted on these candlesticks, and actually I really love them the way they are just with this color. But nothing would say farmhouse more than something that is distressed. So I'm just doing this by hand. You could use your power sander if you wanted to, but I wanted to have quite a bit of control of where I put the distressing. So I'm just using a little piece of coarse sandpaper and I'm going to go along all of the edges of these 2x4s, the corners, the tops, and then I'm also going to do some on the spindle itself and really pull off some of that paint to show the brown underneath. After I got all the sanding done on both pieces, I wiped them down to get rid of the dust and then applied a clear coat. I am in love with these candlesticks. Today's challenge is hosted by Jaime over at Board or Bananas. If you haven't seen her channel yet, you've got to go take a look. She does some amazing thrift hauls and she takes you thrifting with her. The treasures she finds are absolutely amazing. And then she also does some DIYs and upcycles like we are doing today on her other channel called Board or Bananas DIY. Both of Jamie's channels will be listed down in my description box, so I would really appreciate it if you could go over to her channels and hit that red subscribe button and give her your support. My second project is going to be using this mirror that I thrifted for $2.99. I've had this in my stash for a really long time. I had already painted it white once because I think it was black originally, and I don't even remember. I'm going to remove the backing because I won't need to use that. The mirror popped out really easy. So what I did was just clean off any extra glue on the back and then I placed it back into the frame. And now I'm just taking some hot glue and running a fairly thick bead all the way around the edge of the mirror and where it sits into the frame. I'm also then going to go over it one more time with a thicker layer of glue just to make sure that it stays in place. These are some little spindle pieces that were broken off of the second bed, but I decided to keep them because I figured at some point I'm going to have a use for them. And sure enough, I thought that I could use these as little feet for the mirror. So I'm just going to fill them in with some spackling here where there was a screw hole and let them dry. Using some of my DIY chalk paint with just white latex paint and talc, I'm going to go ahead and paint the mirror because I don't want it to be a mirror anymore. I'm heading towards making this a tray. So I'm going to give the mirror and the outside frame a couple of coats. Here's a little painting tip for you. Take one of those plastic gloves that you can get at the dollar store in a huge box and stick your paintbrush right into one of the fingers and then wrap it up. This will keep it nice and moist so when you're ready for the next coat of your project, it's ready to go. Then you don't have to do a ton of washing. I just can't stand that. This will also keep your brush moist for a couple of days. So if you're working on a bunch of projects, painting them white, use that tip. It's really handy. Now I'm going to take the white again and just paint these little legs. You can see that they're a dark brown color. And I'm going to paint the brown part and I'm going to paint the inside because you will be able to see that as well. I wanted to give this tray a wood look, so painting it white first gives me a really good base so you can see the faux wood grain. I'm using a round chip brush and a water-based stain in walnut, and I'm dry brushing using a really light touch. And I'm going in a circle because I want this to look like a round piece of wood. What I'm going to do is keep adding layers, and I don't want this to be a blended look. I really want the brush lines to show, and you can see here that it is starting to turn out that way. So I'm just going to keep doing this until I get the color and the texture that I like. I'm doing the same thing with the inside, which is the mirror, and I'm going to make sure that I go in a circle to match the outside frame. I want this to look like a cut piece of wood that came from a big tree and was cut into a slice to make a tray. This is what the tray looks like with all the layers, and you can see that it did start to blend together a little bit, which is fine, but you can still see some of that white poking through. I'm going to do the same thing with the little legs. I'm using the Weld Bond glue and hot glue combo again. One thing you want to make sure of is that you don't put these glues right on top of each other because they'll cancel each other out and you won't get any hold at all. I'm going to just place them around the edge using the outside circle of the frame as my guide. The last thing I'm going to do is just cover the backing with a couple of coats of the Rust-Oleum cocoa bean chalk paint just to cover up that horrible mess. There's quite a bit of a hot glue mess there too. You can see that texture. So I might end up just putting a little piece of craft paper on the inner circle to hide that, as I will be probably trying to sell this on Facebook Marketplace. I hope you like my idea of turning this mirror into a riser. I think it turned out great. This next project, I'm not too sure about. I think it's going to be sort of a modern farmhouse decor piece, maybe even a little bit industrial. This is a Carlton ware pitcher, and those of you who know thrifted items and vintage items, I know you're probably cringing at me putting painter's tape on this because you know the direction in which I'm heading. Yes, I'll be painting this. And before you cry and before you say anything to me in the comments, I actually tried to sell this as is, but I got no bites. It was on Etsy, it was on eBay, and nobody wanted it. So I'm going to go ahead and give this some new life and hopefully some new purpose. I'm going to use my high temperature Rust-Oleum paint in flat black, and I'm going to give this a couple of coats inside and out. I did tape off the handle and the gold piece at the bottom, but I didn't tape off the little gold trim on the top. So I'm just taking some fine sandpaper now and just kind of bringing that gold back to life. Some sections of the handle and the bottom were kind of a coppery color. So I thought, why don't I try to make this look like oxidized copper? I have a little makeup brush and my eucalyptus green paint from Martha Stewart, and I'm just going to go ahead and sponge on a few different layers until I get the look that I'm going for. Please make sure you also go down to my description box and click on that playlist link for tons of Flippin' Friday inspiration. I'm also going to give this a coat of clear sealer because I don't want any of that black paint to chip. And this is how it turned out. Let me know what you think. I sure hope you enjoyed my makeovers today. If you did, please give me a big thumbs up. That tells YouTube you like my video and they promote it more, which in turn helps my channel grow. Don't forget to click the bell to get notified when I upload new videos. And if you're new here, I'd love for you to stick around. Hit that subscribe button. That black arrow will tell you exactly where to click. Thank you so much for watching. I truly do appreciate your support so much. Have a great day.